In a gruesome fight, a captive pleads for help from bystanders to free him from his tormentors. The tension escalates as he frantically explains that his life is in immediate danger unless he receives assistance. As Logan's desperate pleas for mercy fall on deaf ears, his tormentors, led by Drake, brutally force him into an unknown, dreadful fate. Unsuccessfully trying to appeal to their familial bond, Logan faces a terrifying ordeal. Despite the violence, Drake ironically claims that Slick was his favorite nephew. At Drake's command, a captive Logan is paraded in front of a passive crowd. Desperate for someone to intervene, Logan calls out to the observers in vain as Drake prepares for a gruesome show, demonstrating his sadistic nature. Presenting Logan's torture as a spectacle, he pushes his followers to revel in the violent act. Viewers watch in horror as Drake further humiliates Logan, making him beg for mercy in front of the crowd. Displaying no brotherly love, he cold-heartedly dismisses Logan's pleas for help and exacerbates his public punishment. After humiliating his brother Logan in front of a crowd, Drake ends the macabre spectacle, laughing off the horror he created. His treatment of Logan further reinforces his character as cruel and heartless. In this disturbing scene, Drake frightens a young boy, Otis, after he couldn't repay a debt. A man named Slick steps in to defend Otis but ends up embarrassing himself in front of Drake. Meanwhile, Ivan tries to convince Otis that he can teach him to never feel pain again. In this uneasy scene, Drake harasses a young boy named Otis over an unpaid debt. Slick attempts to intervene but finds himself in a verbally aggressive exchange with Drake. Meanwhile, Ivan claims he can teach Otis how to never feel pain again, indicating some form of twisted mentorship. A confrontation occurs when Slick comes across Drake forcing Violet into a car. Slick attempts to defuse the situation, leading to a tense exchange with Drake. However, a police officer arrives, subdues Drake, and calls for the chief of police. Slick visits the police chief to address the situation with Drake. Using the metaphor of dump trucks, he expresses his strong belief that the townsfolk are not inherently bad, but their environment is making them so. The chief agrees with Slick's observation. Slick and the chief discuss the rampant crime in their city and the increasing influence of Drake. Slick proposes a radical solution: rebuild law enforcement from scratch and harshly deal with Drake to restore order. The chief, though wary, agrees to his plan. When one of Drake's gang members is caught, Slick brutally marks him as a warning to others. The chief, despite his initial reluctance, goes along with Slick's relentless and assertive approach to deal with crime in Fucktown. In the next scene, Abby, a nonchalant sex worker, handles an unruly customer with stoic grace and patience. Though clearly uncomfortable, she negotiates through the threat he poses. Leaving her preference for regular jobs clear, she agrees to serve him with an additional charge. After enduring a tough encounter, Abby reveals a bit about her life to the man who helped her. He compliments her intelligence and suggests she should do something else, to which Abby responds with a stark revelation about the harsh realities of her life. She is a sex worker with limited options. Abby and the man continue their conversation, his concern for her visible in his insistence that she sleep in his bed. Seemingly touched by his compassion, she finally reveals her name to be Abby, accepting his offer and admiring a real bed. As Abby and the man continue their newfound camaraderie, he shares intriguing facts about bears, their territorial nature, their fatal claws, and hints at a hidden quality. The dangerous side of bears becomes a grim topic, leaving Abby startled yet curious. The friendly bear talk abruptly devolves into a frightening situation as a man attempts to rob Abby. The situation escalates quickly when a bystander intervenes, violently subdues the assailant, and then cruelly humiliates him. An attempted robbery takes a cruel turn when a bystander forces the robber to eat glass under threat. As Abby is threatened, another man confidently offers to babysit Junior and confronts the robber, escalating the tension in the room. In this scene, the robbery takes an even more terrifying turn as the robber threatens Abby's and her baby's lives. As the tension peaks, another character steps up, challenging the robber, trying desperately to defuse the dangerous situation and get the robber to leave the city. In this heart-stopping part, the robber displays his violent and aggressive nature. He forcibly feeds the tape evidence to one victim and sexually harasses another. Threats fly freely in the air as he makes his brutish claims, intimidating everyone around him with deadly intent. After a public applause for a homeless man using a shotgun against crime, the protagonist finds out that one of his henchmen, Slick, has been beaten up by the same man. The news only seems to add salt to the ego-bashing wound the antagonist has been enduring. Experiencing humiliation after learning about Slick's defeat by a homeless man, Drake harshly reprimands both his sons. Drake highlights the need for Slick to have a grander pair of eyeglasses and not be consumed by a petty desire for revenge. In this heated conversation, Drake urges Slick to tap into people's fears, urging him to prove himself truly terrifying. Giving a brutal advice, Drake metaphorically explains that when life provides challenges, razor blades, one must adapt and create suitable responses, baseball bat. Drake takes Slick's advice and organizes a terrifying act of setting a school bus on fire as a showcase of his terror. Unfortunately, the horrific event ends with the tragic demise of numerous children, which is reported on the news. Drake uses the terror of the recent event to threaten the public through a live TV broadcast. He devises a deadly game that involves hunting down all homeless people as a form of regular citizens' participation in his reign of terror, with their children's lives at stake as a brutal motivator. Despite the desolation and chaos, the homeless assassin manages to stir some hope by only targeting the corrupt officials. Drake, in his twisted sense of justice, offers his prostitutes as a reward to anyone who can kill the hobo. The ugly misogyny of the corrupt circles is further revealed through their conversation swaying between their lustful interest in a prostitute and their twisted belief about being able to batter them, unlike their wives. Abby attempts to resist the vulgar advances of the officials, but her defiance only incites more violent responses. The officials not only exercise their corrupt power but also abuse the women in the city, treating them as objects for their depraved enjoyment. In this intense scene, Abby defies and struggles against officials exploiting their power. A policeman intervenes, expressing his disgust for their behavior and understanding Abby's role as a teacher. After a gunshot heard, Abby's friend warns about cleaning the streets by killing, expressing fear for their repercussions. Abby's life grows more chaotic following the shooting. Amidst this chaos, Abby's friend reveals his dream of starting a lawn mowing business as a means to escape, a dream that Abby decides to make their shared goal. Amid the aftermath of the shocking police shooting, Abby and Ivan become more entangled in the chaotic life on the run. As tensions mount, Otis makes a misguided offer of help that annoys Slick. With Abby's encouragement, they begin considering a different life beyond their current circumstances. Abby and Ivan make plans to flee, intending to start anew. Meanwhile, Slick and his gang corner Otis, who's seeing Abby secretly. Violence erupts as Otis tries to fight back against Slick's brutal group. In a horrific turn of events, Otis' secret rendezvous with Abby is interrupted by Slick and his gang. A violent struggle ensues as Slick threatens Otis' life while Abby and Ivan try to escape. Amidst chaos, Slick arrogantly claims he's invincible due to his father's influence. After the violent struggle at Abby's hideout, Slick calls his father, disclosing his horrific injury and expressing that he's not going to make it. In his dying moments, Slick acknowledges his father's toughness and commends him for being a commendable parent. Slick demands that Abby, gravely injured, be treated despite protests from others. As her vitals decline dangerously, Slick desperately implores her to hang on. When Abby awakes, she's given a gift, beautiful items for her classroom. Though she begs him to stay, Slick tells her he must return to work. In a tender moment, Abby admits she's not really a schoolteacher, which leaves Slick reflecting on the reality of their harsh world. He contrasts the innocence and potential of newborns with the bleak future facing those growing up in their harsh environment. Slick's reflections continue as he hopes for a better future for the innocent newborns. Soon, tension rises as Ivan and Rip appear to collect Slick, ordered by Drake. Despite his desperate situation, Slick taunts Ivan about living in his brother's shadow. This scene features a conflicted Ivan asserting his authority to Slick, threatening to exact revenge. Later, an unidentified woman tries to ascertain whether Slick is homeless, leading the latter to assume that her intentions are deadly, signifying the widespread fear among the city's homeless population. In this scene, the mysterious woman continues to emphasize the struggles faced by the homeless, defending their right to a safe space on the streets. Slick, the apparent outcast, accepts his fate, inviting the woman to kill him if she wishes. In a grand spectacle, Drake, the mastermind behind a violent show, celebrates the plague's murderous deeds. The crowd's attention is turned towards their special guest, Slick, who is held responsible for killing Drake's favorite son. Drake, in an ominous monologue, compares his grieving process to that of God losing his son. He asserts dominance over the crowd, speaking of his power fueled by fear. His retribution involves sending Slick to a place called the Glory Hole. Meanwhile, Slick defies Drake, criticizing his parenting skills. In a tense situation, Drake threatens his gang, demonstrating his ruthless nature. Slick, however, defies him and paints a bleak picture of how evil consumes itself. Abby takes Drake's son as a hostage to defuse the situation, but Drake cold-heartedly dismisses his own son's life, stating he has minimal potential. In another gripping scene, Drake, a ruthless gang leader, holds Abby hostage and decides to torture her as part of his entertainment for his twisted audience. Slick intervenes to rescue Abby from their clutches, creating more chaos and tension. Abby is injured and desperate not to fall asleep. Despite her condition, Slick ensures her safety from the plague, leaving to conclude one last task. Meanwhile, obsessed with revenge, an unhinged Drake continues to threaten Abby and Slick, only intensifying the tension. Drake's arrogance soars as he continues his threats, turning more frantic. Meanwhile, Slick remains focused on keeping Abby safe. A standoff ensues between Drake's men and the other townsfolk, leading to heightened chaos and danger. Despite the ongoing chaos, Drake forcibly declares that Abby will join him on an ominous ride to hell. The scene emotionally charged, with a song about bravely facing darkness and not being alone playing in the background. As Drake and Abby prepare for a treacherous journey, a song with a message of solidarity and perseverance plays, signifying their united front amid dark challenges that lie ahead.